Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Boomerang Theater Company. My name is Tim Erickson. I am the artistic director of the Boomerang Theater Company. And today I have the great pleasure to be chatting with playwright and artist Lia Romeo. So welcome. Hi.
Thank you. Hi.
Lia is a playwright and a teaching artist and is currently the associate artistic director at Project Y Theater Company here in New York. Her plays have been developed at the O'Neill, the Lark, and elsewhere, and have been produced in New York City and at regional theaters around the country. So you've got a lot of work that we can talk about. But how has the quarantine isolation been going for you and your family?
I mean, it's been really challenging, obviously, like it is for everybody. We are all healthy and we are all employed, so we are very, very fortunate in those respects. So that's great. But yeah, it's been really hard. My husband and I have a 17-month-old, so he was in daycare until early March, and then we pulled him out. And since then, we've basically been taking care of him on our own. We're staying with my in-laws right now, so that is very helpful in terms of doing some childcare. But we're basically, full-time childcare providers as well as full-time workers. So that's been a lot. That's been the hardest thing about it, obviously. And yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. It's at the beginning of all of this, I was very artistically depressed, I would say, because it was just like every few days news of another canceled production. Like I was actually about to have my best year professionally when all of this started. Like I've had 5 productions canceled. One of them was a rolling world premiere with NNPN. So there were 4 productions with that. Then there was a second production of a play that had its first production in the fall that was supposed to have an LA premiere on the West Coast, and then a world premiere of another play with Project Y in New York. So that's been, sad.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I was sort of like, had the whole like alternate timeline in my mind of like, oh, this would have been happening. This would have been happening. Like, this really sucks. And I had a lot of doubt about, which I still do, like what theater would look like on the other side of this, and would it exist, and in what form would it exist, and what I have, not even would it exist, because like I don't actually doubt that. Like I'm very sure that theater will continue to exist because it always has, but will someone like me still have a place in it? Like I had a lot of doubt about that because I feel like I was sort of like right on the cusp of getting to the next level in my career, and this obviously derailed that. So it was kind of like, it was so hard before and I was finally getting somewhere, and now like it's going to be even harder probably, like on the other end of this, like how many theaters are going to be able to reopen, what is that whole landscape going to look like, and are those of us who were just starting to find our place in that landscape going to have a place in it anymore? And I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but grappling with all of those was very challenging in the beginning of this, and I'm doing a lot better now, which I can also get into. But there were obviously all of those questions.
And do you feel like of those productions that were postponed, whether it be the National New Play Network or obviously the Project Y project probably will have a life again coming up. But do you think the other things will also probably come back to you, or do you think that they're sort of lost?
I hope so. I don't know for sure, but I know New Jersey Rep, which was supposed to kick off the Rolling World premiere, they are committed to doing the play when they're able to open again. The set is like half built in their shop, and they have a cast, and they're definitely going to do it. The other companies that were on board for the Rolling World premiere may not. I don't know. They weren't like, already underway in the same way. So I don't know if those are going to happen or not.
And you should probably just clarify what that Rolling World premiere process looks like for National. So it's through the National New Play Network, which is, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah. So the National New Play Network is this network of regional theaters around the country, and they are all sort of connected and share information and sometimes share work. And it's this really cool program where certain plays, 3 or more theater companies that are all in the network will all commit to producing the play within the span of 1 year. So the writer gets to see, these different productions and rewrite in between. And it's just this amazing way to help a play evolve by just seeing it done multiple times in different places in a short period of time. And it's something that I had, known about and wanted to have for a long time and was very excited to have. And so, whether it happens or not, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that either this play it will happen or some other play of mine it will happen in the future, because it's an amazing program.
It's a fantastic thing for a writer to have multiple theaters committing to a play and saying, we believe in it so much that we are able to all get behind it in a way. And I think it seems like a great way for theaters to also, they don't officially share resources, but they share in the hopes and dreams and the commitment to the work in a way that makes more possible than less, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's, there's this world premiere thing where once a play's been premiered, it's often harder to get that second production. And so the program was sort of created to counter that and to make sure that plays do have a life beyond just that first world premiere production.
Right. And these theaters are around the country usually, right? Like, where yours were?
Yeah, so I had one in New Jersey, I had one in Colorado, I had one in upstate New York, and I think also one in Philadelphia.
Yeah, so it's about getting your name and your work seen in places and building that audience for your particular work.
Yeah, and I will say NNPN has been wonderful during the quarantine. They've had like online resources and chats for their affiliated artists and just like opportunities for artists to connect with each other and just sort of share how we're feeling and connect with theaters. And they've really been a helpful lifeline reaching out to their artists who've been involved with various of their programs. And that's been really reassuring for me. And I feel like I have gotten to, although I haven't gotten to do that program, I do feel like I've gotten to know some of the people in NNPN more during quarantine, which has been great.
Yeah. And you're in that circle now, so that you don't lose that piece.
Yeah.
And writing is so sharp that it's not like you're going to suddenly be like, I don't know how to write anymore. They're going to, like.
You never know. I mean, there are days where I feel like that, but
I know, but we all know that that's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
Your writing is sharp for that. So,
Thank you.
well, I think that all of that's going to come back to you when we all get some of this back.
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope that the theater landscape, still looks okay. I'm not going to say it looks like what it currently looks like or looks like what it looked like before, because there are ways that it needs to change and ways that I hope it does change, but I hope that there is a theater landscape and it is still healthy or is more healthy, and, all of those companies are still around.
It's super interesting that your perspective on it too, I think, because both as a creative person who is writing plays for whether it be the New York City audience or regional theaters around the country, but also as an associate artistic director of what programming looks like and how artists are brought into an organization and how they're treated and how, there's so many different ways that I think you're probably looking at how the industry does really well and ways that it has opportunities to improve.
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at it from both sides. I mean, I think every playwright should get involved with a company, really, because you learn so much from that. And I've discovered that I really care about supporting other playwrights and advocating for them and putting their work forward in ways that I really didn't know that I did before. It wasn't like, oh, I want to work with a company because I really want to help playwrights. It was more like, this company invited me to work with them and they're great and maybe that'll help me. And then like discovering the fact that there are so many wonderful writers out there and that I want to be an advocate for those writers as well. So it's been great from that perspective. And it is really interesting to sort of look at it from both sides of the table.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your writing. So how has this time with time on your hands a little bit been? Maybe not. Yeah. Yes, you have a 17-month-old, so like maybe there's no time on your hands. But
there's no time on my hands, but there's enough time to do the things I have to do.
Sure. Let me rephrase that question then. In this moment of all kinds of different things being thrown at us, and all this uncertainty, how has your writing process been? Like, how have you been able to find time to be a creative person?
So it's been an evolution. Again, when everything first started, I was basically just sad. And, because we were doing full-time childcare, it was so hard to make time for any given thing. And, I also have a day job and I also teach, and my husband has a corporate job, like a 9 to 6 kind of job. So there was a lot that we were juggling. And given all of that and the fact that I didn't know when there would actually be opportunities for my writing again, it was kind of like, why am I struggling so hard to make time in my day for this thing that like maybe doesn't have any point? And so I felt like that for a while, you know, and then I realized that for better or worse, you know, writing is a big part of my identity. It's a big part of what makes me feel good as a person. And I think there are also reasons to question that, you know, as a mindset, in that, you know, all of us living in this capitalist system and learning to value ourselves by our accomplishments rather than our own intrinsic worth. Like I've been thinking about all of that with this whole crisis a lot, but given that that is something that feels important to me, to just have the pages and get the work done in that way, it seemed harder to sort of reevaluate my whole mindset in the middle of a pandemic than just to make the time to do the work. So I decided to do that.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then I had a talk with my husband and I was like, I need some time every day to do some work. And he was like, okay, great, let's make that happen. And we started blocking some time in the middle of the day, like around nap time and also a little bit before and after sometimes. And I started using that time to write every day. And so I was working on a pilot for a while, which is really bad, but will be better eventually. And then I was working on finishing up a draft of a commission for the Farm Theater. I'm the person who got their college collaboration project this year. So that means that I write a play that is done at a couple different colleges and then also gets a reading in New York. So it's a little bit like the Rolling World Premiere Program, in that the idea is to see your play with different creative teams and work on it and see it evolve over the course of the year, which is awesome. And so I have gone through a couple of drafts of that play. And then another thing I'm actually pretty excited about is I sort of started leaning into this playwriting for Zoom thing. And, you know, I've read the think pieces or whatever you want to call them on both sides of like, online theater is not really theater, why are we doing this? And also the, you know, it's great for people to have some mode of creative expression and this is what we have right now. And I think there's a lot of bad online theater out there, but I also think there was a lot of bad theater in theaters before the pandemic. So like, I don't think online theater necessarily has to be bad. I think it has the potential to be very good. And I think in order for it to be good, it needs to start with good plays that are written specifically for the medium. So I've been thinking about that and sort of trying to lean into that. And I've written a couple of short Zoom plays that have been done all over the place, actually, a lot of different companies, which was nice in the beginning of the pandemic because I felt like, you know, it gave me that little like jolt of validation, like, okay, here's another company that wants to do my short play, here's another one, like, and I didn't actually even end up watching all of them, but it just felt good to know, like, okay, there are still companies doing work and putting it out there, and I can still be part of that. And then I ended up writing a full-length Zoom play. Like, it's not, my definition of a full-length Zoom play is like a 45, 50-minute play, because I just don't think that people have the attention span on Zoom that they do in a theater. Mm-hmm. So it's probably about 50 minutes long, and it's all about the pandemic. It's set in April in 2020 in New York City. And while I was writing it, I was very aware, like, this might just be me engaging in therapy. You know, this might not be something that like anyone ever wants to see, because I might just not have any sort of distance to create an artistic thing about this moment that we are living in. But at the same time, it felt like, well, this is what I'm thinking about all the time, and this is what I want to write about. And I felt very compelled to write about it in that way. So I was like, well, I'll just write it. And if it's therapy, like, all right, I made myself feel better for a few weeks. Like, that's fine. Like, that's a totally valid thing, you know. And I actually do think it turned out to be good, and I'm actually in rehearsal for 2 different productions of it with teams of actors that I'm really, really excited about right now. So that's been great, in that it's felt really good to be connecting with theater companies and actors and be in a rehearsal process again, and just, you know, feeling like all of these things exist in the online space, and these are maybe even opportunities that I would not have normally because these are not people I would normally probably get to work with, both geographically and in terms of them being very busy. So it's been really nice to be like, okay, there is opportunity out there and I can write a good thing and have a good production of it happen, even though it looks very different than what that looked like before.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think about these things from time to time in terms of the work that is created specifically for Zoom. Like, we do believe on some level that this will end eventually, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll have this collection of plays that were made in these 18 months or 2 years where we couldn't do anything, right? And then like, how are we going to look at these plays, you know, in 2029 when we're back on stages for years and we're like, you know, or 2100 and people were like, they did this?
Yeah. I know, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like there are plays that will have a limited lifespan, but I feel like that about a lot of plays.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like any play that's about something like very, very topical will have a limited lifespan. I have a play that's very much about like technology and social media and like connecting with other people. And like, I feel like that play's lifespan is basically over already because I first wrote it in 2014. You know, that's all a completely different landscape now.
Is it called MySpace?
What's that?
Is it called MySpace the musical?
No, but it's like that, you know. It's like when I first wrote it, there was like, I don't think MySpace was ever in it, but like
no,
I had to update the references like several times, but now it's published and it's like the references are what they are. So I'm sort of stuck with it. But I mean, I feel like theater has always had a certain ephemerality. And I decided a few years ago, like my goal for right now, this stage in my life or career, is to just have one really good production of each of my plays. And if I get one really good production, I'm like, all right, I'm good. If I get more than that, that's great. But like, really, I just want the one good production to see what the play can be. And then if the play doesn't have a life beyond that, like, that's okay with me, you know? So I feel like that will be the case with plays that I'm writing in this particular moment, if I'm writing them for the digital space, but that's all right.
Yeah. And so when you think about how you write plays, what's your process like? Are you morning? Well, this might be completely a crazy question now with the schedule that you keep with other people in your lives, but
Yes.
Traditionally, have you been a morning writer or an evening writer, or coffee in your hand versus wine in your hand? Like, what do you have to have?
I don't really have any have to haves, which is good because my life has changed a lot and the time and space that I have to write has changed a lot over the years. So I'm pretty flexible with it. I am not a person that can write on public transportation, which I know a lot of people that can, and I really admire that because like writing in transit has never worked for me. But aside from that, I mean, I usually write at home. I did write at coffee shops sometimes before all of this. Obviously, I don't do that now. Right now, I write during nap time, and the baby's a good napper. He naps from noon to at least 1:30, and on really good days till 3. Like, he's still asleep right now. It's 2:30. This is a good day. So that's the time that I write, basically. And when I'm engaged in a project, when I'm writing, I just protect that time pretty carefully and work during that time. And that ends up being enough time to get quite a bit done, I find, which is interesting. Sometimes I'll also write in the evening after he goes to bed, but I'm usually too tired. So I'll usually do other work or do something that doesn't really use my brain as much. So, you know, at the moment, I'm a nap time writer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's been interesting seeing, like, you know, it doesn't actually take that long to write a play. Like, plays aren't that long. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't even say I'm a fast writer. I'd say I'm probably like pretty average. Like, I know people that write a lot faster than me, but like, and I don't write every day, and I'm not the most diligent or most consistent person, but it's not that hard to get a lot done if you are like, consistent might not even be the right word because I don't even mean consistent like do it every day, but like consistently engaged in a project, like the project will get done.
Yeah.
And it won't take that long. And like, I don't know, this has been interesting in that it's taught me that I need even less time than I thought I did.
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday, August 10th, and it's toward the end of the summertime. I'm sure your family has a lot of things that they want to be outside doing or running around trying to get done while the weather is nice. So I can understand why sometimes the idea of I'm not going to write every day, or I'm not going to just sit at the keyboard every day, but I think you're still probably writing all the time, you know, like that consistency of
Yeah.
project and process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm often thinking about it. I wouldn't say I'm even thinking about writing every day, but you know, I do think that everything feeds in. Like, I definitely do believe that like all of life ends up sort of feeding into the writing in some way. And, you know, going through some sort of crazy experience like we're all going through to one level or another right now definitely does feed it. You know, there are a whole variety of new situations and emotions and experiences that I'm having that are interesting. So that does feed the work in some way.
Yeah. All new anxieties, all new
Yes.
concerns and questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when you get stuck, if you ever get stuck, when you get stuck, do you have a particular piece of advice or a particular practice that you fall back on that maybe you either heard or read somewhere or someone said to you that sort of allows you to re-energizes you, regrounds you, lets you push through to get to the next page?
It's a really good question. I don't know that I have like one specifically. One trick that I use sometimes when I'm stuck on something is that this is sort of a weird trick, and I don't know why I started doing it, but I find it really helpful to write without character names.
Okay.
Because it sort of frees me from, I guess, the formal constraints of the piece and makes me feel less like, oh, I'm writing a piece of my play, and more like, oh, I'm just kind of like messing around.
Mm-hmm.
So like whenever I'm writing a play, I have the actual document of the draft of the play, and then I have a separate document for notes. And sometimes when I'm feeling kind of stuck on something, I'll go to the notes document and just start writing lines of dialogue between the characters, but without the names, and
Okay.
see if I can get going on something that like feels kind of good. And then if it actually starts feeling like I've written something that doesn't suck, I will then transfer it over to the actual draft that I'm working on and put it in there. Something sort of interesting that I did earlier on in the pandemic that I'd never done before actually was I was just sort of playing around and ended up writing this monologue. And I was like, I think this goes in my play, but I don't know where it goes or if it actually goes in my play. And it is in the play right now. And we'll see. You know, I think it belongs there, but I'm not even sure yet. But I ended up posting it to Facebook, which I'd never done before. But I think I was just feeling like I don't have like those constant opportunities to like have my work out there. I don't have like audiences right now. So like, here's an audience, like, let me just like throw this up on Facebook. And I'd seen other writers do that. And I had enjoyed reading like portions of plays that other people had put up there. So, and it was really nice actually. Like all these people said really nice things about it. And a couple of different actors I know ended up recording it and posting it to YouTube. And so it was just this nice, like, okay, that's a place that I can put something out there. Like that's interesting because I don't think I would have done that without this experience.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Must be a really, I would imagine it is a really fulfilling thing to have people be so attracted to your work that they're going to make it part of their own artistic practice as well, or do it,
Yeah.
record it, post it out there. Like, that's great.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, and it was very interesting to see like the different things that different people did with it, and yeah, it was fun.
And they had, I would assume, very little context for maybe how that monologue fit in the larger world or the larger piece. Or
yeah, no, because I didn't even have that context at that time. Like I ended up putting it into the play later. I kind of just wrote it because I don't know why I wrote it actually, because I had some time and I wrote it. I think I was sort of trying to get myself unstuck and started going on it. I think that's what made me think of it in response to your question. But.
Yeah. If people wanted to connect more to your work, where's the best place for them to see more of your stuff? Is it New Play Exchange, or where are the places they should find you?
So I am on New Play Exchange. I have a lot of different plays up there. All of my stuff except my published plays, I think, are on NPX pretty much. So you can look me up at Lia Romeo on New Play Exchange. I have a couple of different online productions coming up at the end of this month. I have one with Sweet Rhyme Productions and the Last Frontier Theater Conference. They are producing this play that I wrote for Zoom on August 21st, I want to say. I don't have like exact details on either of these yet. And then that one is a benefit production for the Actors Fund with Laura Gardner and Frank Collison, who are couple of wonderful LA-based actors. And then the world premiere, the official world premiere of that play is happening with Mile Square Theater, which is a Hoboken company, in September. It's opening up a series of plays, a series of Zoom plays that they are running throughout the fall, producing online, and that's with Dan Lauria and Wendy Malick. So I'm very excited to be working with both of them.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. So we're in rehearsal for that as well right now. So yeah, that is happening. That's going to open, I think, the week of September 18th, and I will have more details on both of those up on my social media and my website and all of that.
Awesome.
Down the line.
That is perfect. Well, this has been great. I'm so glad we got a chance to talk, Lia. So thank you so much for doing this. And people can check out your work. We'll post the links in the chat below. So
thank you so much for doing the series. This is a lovely thing.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye.